All right.
The following is a presentation of Fox 43 Sports.
You are watching the Sports Source Kickoff with John Pennington, presented by Madisonville Marine.
Good Thursday evening. Are you ready for the battle at Bristol? We are. Fast-paced, in-depth, honest preview of the Hokies and Vols coming your way tonight here on the Sports Source Kickoff presented by our friends at Madisonville Marine. I've got a packed house here with us. Let's get right into it. First segment of our show brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Madisonville Marine, you see their website right there. Folks, for years, for 40 years, there's been no better place to buy a boat. All right, let me show you who's joining me this week on our show. Right over here, we have Jimmy Himes from WNML Sports Radio. We have Sports Radio WNML. Let me flip it so I brand it right. Right there from SECCountry.com, we have Mike Griffith. And right there joining us this week, Sterling Hinton, VFL quarterback, and of course, DJ inside Neyland Stadium.
Baby. Glad
All right.
to be here, John P.
We always open by talking about the stakes. What's at stake this week? I had a hard time deciding. It's really come down to two things for me, and I'm going to make Sterling decide here which one is more at stake for the Vols. What's more important, fan goodwill. Should you lose, do the fans fall off the bandwagon? I think you had some of that after an ugly win against Appy State. Or is the bigger deal team confidence? I think you could argue that they might have been overconfident going into Appy State. But if you walk out of there with a bad-looking win over Appy State and a loss or a struggling win against Virginia Tech, do you have to worry about their confidence? What's the bigger issue, fan goodwill or team confidence? What's at stake?
Question, John P. The bigger deal is team confidence. Because the fans, they have the luxury of being on board or off board. The team just doesn't. And if the team keeps their confidence, they'll start winning, and the fans always come back. Because fans, they do have an expectation here in Tennessee. They love seeing winning. It hurts their heart when we do not win. But if the players lose their confidence, and for some reason we get into a situation where we go into the bucket, so to speak, that's more serious than losing the fans, because we can bring the fans back with wins.
There you go. All right. Each week we do a segment here right off the top where we talk about 3 up, 3 down. And that's where I ask you guys to give me 3 guys that looked good last week, 3 guys that need to play better this coming week. We'll work it this way. Jimmy Himes, you got about 30 seconds. Who was in your players up list?
Mike Abernathy. We had heard a lot about him in the preseason. We heard a lot about him from Bob Shoop about how consistent he was and how good he was playing, which allowed them to move Galden back from safety to the nickel position. I thought he made a really nice open field tackle. I thought he was in the right position a lot of the time. And then he made the play to deflect the pass on the 4th down in overtime. I thought he had a really solid game. He also showed pretty good speed, too. I was impressed with Mike Abernathy.
All right, 3 up. Mike Griffith, who's your up?
Really liked what Preston Williams did, John. I thought he was explosive in the first half. He had 5 catches for 45 yards in the first half alone. Really the only receiver for Tennessee that had positive yardage receiving in the first half was Preston Williams. I know there was that catch in the back of the end zone. Was
drop,
it a catch? Was it not a catch?
I think it's called a drop.
I guess it was called a drop, ruled a drop. But a guy that looks dynamic, really starting to live up to those 5-star recruiting rankings.
That was the only thing that worried me is, and everybody was talking about, was it a catch or not a catch? If you don't put it on the ground, there's no decision to make. That's catch. Putting it on the ground. So, nice step forward, but catch the ones in the end zone. 3 up. Who'd you think was up, Sterling?
My up guy was Jalen Hurd. I mean, the guy was a workhorse out there. He got the ball. He got hit as soon as he touched the ball 90% of the time and still found a way to make some positive yards. And his hustle play at the end of the game, well, there you have it. My guy is Jalen Hurd.
Which brings us to 3 down, 3 guys that you guys weren't impressed with. And I'm going to go straight to Mike Griffith on this one to rebut Sterling Hinton.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with Jalen Hurd. I have high expectations for Jalen. I mean, he's a guy that ought to be healthier than fresher than anyone on the team. He wears that green no contact jersey on the field, and maybe when he goes to class for that matter, I don't know. But I didn't see him break as many tackles as a 240-pound guy should. There was only one guy on that Appalachian State defense as big as Jalen Hurd. You got 2 cracks from the 4-yard line with Jalen Hurd. You can't get in the end zone in overtime. The one thing he did do well was recover the fumble, but he did miss a blitz pickup that was very costly in the 4th quarter.
I give him a little leeway simply because I don't see guys at Alabama who are having to dodge people in the backfield play after play, game after game.
Well, then
he
maybe
did
they
that
should
all
put
last
Alvin
year.
Kamara in there because he runs a little faster
I
and
would
a
have
little
liked
harder.
to. I would have liked to have seen a little Kamara in there. I don't know that he plays harder than Jalen Hurd, but all right. Jimmy Hyams, who's your 3 down?
Mine is Josh Dobbs. You talk about expecting more out of Hurd. I expected more out of Dobbs. I didn't think he played as well as I anticipated. I thought at the end of the half that when he threw it up for grabs and it got intercepted, you robbed Tennessee of a chance to score some points. You robbed Tennessee of a chance to get some momentum. And he didn't. I thought there was some decision making by him that wasn't typical of him. Now, I don't know if they told him don't keep it on the zone read or not. I'm not sure what was going on. But I was disappointed in that. He also had at least one fumble.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember.
Snap.
Oh, yeah. And
That's right.
So I expect more out of Dobbs. My ceiling for him, my expectations are higher than that. I did not think he had his best game.
He's not a great passer, so he's always a run-first guy. If they don't let him run first, then you're depending on him just to make good decisions. When he doesn't make good decisions, you got real issues at the quarterback position.
And I think when he runs effectively, he passes more effectively. I think they go hand in hand.
Opens
with him.
things up a little bit.
Sterling Hinton, our own former quarterback, who needs to play better against Virginia Tech this week?
Well, without question, I have to go with Coleman Thomas. He gets the ball to the quarterback, and when you get the ball and you feel comfortable with that, it helps you with your reads. As maybe Dr. Dobbs had a little issue, getting the ball a couple of times. But I expect more out of Coleman. I think he's an incredible athlete, an incredible lineman, and I think he will do well this week against Virginia Tech.
Easily his worst game as a center, I thought, was last week. He did have an ankle injury. The question is, how much of a role did that play? And if he had an ankle injury last week, is it healed for Saturday? If not, you got more questions. They didn't give him much help from the guards last week. At some point, they can't just leave him out there on an island, obviously, especially against a Bud Foster defense. All right, next segment, very quickly here. We blazed through this one last week. Let me slide my McDonald's coffee over there without spilling it on myself. All right, we blazed through this last week thinking, oh yeah, well, Tennessee will win the line battle against Appy State. Not so much. So in terms of, we'll start with quarterbacks. 3 most important positions on the field usually. You're talking offensive line, defensive line, quarterback. Who's got the edge at quarterback? Tennessee, Virginia Tech. You had Gerard Evans last week, the JUCO transfer for Virginia Tech, had a big game, 20 of 32, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, 221 yards, 5 rushes, 46 yards. That's granted, it was against Liberty. Josh Dobbs has never had a game with 4 touchdowns. Who gets the edge?
I'm going to still go with Dobbs. And you're right, it was Liberty, so I temper that, and I actually watched that game again last night with Virginia Tech and Liberty. I'm going to go with Dobbs. I think he will play better than he did last week.
Everybody agree Dobbs gets the call here?
I'd call it a wash.
Okay.
I say Dobbs all day, twice on Sunday.
I'll go Dobbs, but it's kind of close to the middle here. It's kind of close to the line. All right. Offensive line, from what I saw last Thursday against a Bud Foster defense, I'm going Virginia Tech. Until they prove otherwise, I would say the offensive line, the better fight there would be Virginia Tech rather than Tennessee's offensive line, in my view.
I'll go Virginia Tech's offensive line. And here's the thing about Tennessee, and I don't know what they look at when they grade them. I can't imagine anybody on that offensive line having a winning grade. Any place on that line. I'm going to go Virginia Tech.
You guys agree Virginia Tech?
Yeah, I would agree with Jimmy.
No, I don't agree with Virginia Tech. I'm going offensive line Tennessee because I believe they had a game off. They're going to come back and give it to them. That's what I believe.
Too bad, you're outnumbered. All right, defensive line very quickly here. Who are we going with? Tennessee has more depth. That's supposed to be the strength of the team. I bought into it over the summer. I'll stick with them for now. Does anybody disagree and go Virginia Tech?
No, I'll stick with Tennessee too.
All right, very good. When we come back, Josh Dobbs, he went from, this dark horse Heisman contender to one of the best in the SEC to let's get him out of there and put Dormady in. Too quick to jerk on the whole Josh Dobbs thing. We'll discuss. Come on back on the Sports Source Kickoff, presented by Madisonville Marine.